Hey, and welcome to the next episode of Creating Wealth Consciousness. I am Jennifer Blanchard, the Feel Good Life Coach and Mindset Alchemist, who helps you to reclaim your worthiness and tell a new story about yourself and your life. So, I haven't done an episode in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to share the reason why and then use that to parlay into this week's episode because I think that it's a really, really key and important thing. So, the reason that I haven't done an episode in a couple of weeks is because I had an internal story going on that said, you don't talk about money. Money is not something to talk about, right? Money is not something you talk about. You especially don't talk about it publicly. You don't talk about being wealthy. You don't talk about money. Like, it's just a thing you don't do. And so, that story won out for a while before I even started doing these videos. So that story was winning out for me. And then I did about 5 or 6 episodes, and then that story came back and I let it get to me. So I had 2 weeks where I was just like, I'm not going to do this. I don't think I should do this. But that was just a story, right? And I remember where that story came from, which I remember was when I was a kid, my mom used to always say, we don't talk about money. Like, shh, you're not supposed to talk about money, or don't say things like that. Like if I had, got a bunch of money, like let's say for a birthday or something, like run over, want to show it to her, and it's like, look at all this money I got. She's like, put your hand down, like, shh, like, put it down, like, don't, just kind of. And again, this was just her learning. This is what she learned, right, about money from her parents, from their parents, etc. Right. So this is just being passed down from one person to the next, but that doesn't make it true. It was just a story that I had. And so that story was stopping me from making these videos because it was like, oh, well, I can't talk about money because that's not what you do. Like, you don't talk about money. It's not what you're supposed to do. And, like blah, 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 whatever. So now I have addressed that story. I'm continuing to address that story and realizing that it does not help anybody. It does not serve anybody for me to not talk about this stuff, right? To not share what I'm learning, what I'm experiencing, because this is an area where I have had the most struggle my entire life, the most hardship, the most struggle, the most just frustration and annoyance. And like, this is that area for me. And so that area has improved so much over the last couple of years. And even more so this year, it's been improving massively and very quickly because I have been so consciously working on this stuff every single day and literally spending 30 minutes to an hour or more most days doing money mindset work, doing money mentality stuff, like really just diving into the energy and all of that around money stuff. So I like to share what I learn, right? That's just who I am. That's what I do. And so by me not doing that, right, I'm actually holding back on something that is really important for other people to want to know, right? Like this is something that you need to know too, because wealth consciousness is something that we all have the ability to create for ourselves. It's just that we are taught lies, we are taught stories, we are taught BS things that now become our life experience. But that doesn't have to be the case, right? So that was the story for me, was that you don't talk about money, right? You don't talk about it. You don't tell people about it. You don't it's not something you would speak about publicly, most especially. You're not going to teach people about money. Like that's not a thing. But again, I am someone who likes to teach from my life experience. That is just who I am and what I do. And so I feel like this is something that I want to speak on and want to share on because it's been such a life-changing process for me to realize that I had the power all along to create wealth consciousness for myself, to create that money mindset that allows money to be easy, that allows it to come in large quantities and, a lot faster than it ever had before, because I allowed myself to have all that, right? To change my stories, to change the way I was thinking. So parlaying that, like I said, into this week's episode, what are your stories around money, right? So you've probably done this before if you've ever done money mindset work, but if you have done it before, still do it again because there's always new stories, right? There's always another layer to it. But if you haven't, then this might be a life-changing experience for you just in itself. And that is looking at what are your money stories, right? So what are the things you were taught about money, you were told about money, you now believe about money? What are the doubts, fears, negative voices that come up for you as you think about money, as you spend money, receive money? Like what comes up for you? That stuff is what you want to look at. That's the stuff you want to shine a light on, dig into, because right there you're going to find your limiting beliefs, the things that are stopping you or blocking the money from coming to you, and the things that are keeping you in that lack, poverty-ish mindset, right? So this is about creating wealth consciousness and realizing that you are the source of everything that you experience in your life. So what are your money stories? What are the stories that are underlying all of the stuff you now believe about money? And Just because you believe it up to this point doesn't make it true and doesn't mean you have to continue believing it, right? So you can choose right now, you're going to rewrite these stories, but you can't rewrite the stories until you know what they are. So that's what you have to do first, is you have to look at what are my stories, right? You have to really dig in and see what those stories are. So like I said, one of the stories for me was that you don't talk about money. You don't talk about it. You especially don't talk about it publicly. Like it's not something that you keep it on the DL. It's like a hush hush secretive kind of thing. But it doesn't have to be, right? Because it doesn't help anybody to not talk about this stuff. It doesn't serve anybody. And, if you have the key to the kingdom, right, why would you not give that to other people? So that is what I'm doing with these videos. And I'm getting rid of that old story that talking about money is bad, right? That you shouldn't talk about it. That's bullshit. And I'm not going to believe it anymore. So what are your money stories, and what are the money stories you've had that you've been believing up to this point? Write them all down. Really just get them all out on paper. You might want to just like freestyle journal, or just write down what comes to you in like a list form or something like that, but just get it all down. And then you really want to go back and look at it, right? And you want to look at each individual story that you've written down and then ask yourself, well, is this actually true? And what do you want to create instead, right? So you obviously have a choice in the story you're going to tell about money, about yourself, about your life, etc. So what are you now choosing to tell in that area about money? So one example for me would be that it is perfectly safe and perfectly normal and perfectly allowed for me to talk about money, right? That is not a bad thing. That's not something that has to be taboo or anything like that, right? Like it can be something that is empowering for other people, that is something that allows other people to experience the things that I am now experiencing because I've done this work. So that is what I'm going to leave you for this week. What are your money stories? Dig in, dive in, like really look at these and get really clear on it, because once you do that, you can begin to work through what are you now going to choose to believe instead, right? And rewrite those stories and give yourself a new way of experiencing things. So that is it for this week. I will see you guys very soon for the next episode. And if you want to rewrite your stories, if you're recognizing all these money stories you have coming up that you're like, oh, I'm limited, I feel this, I feel that, like, and you're ready to just get rid of that stuff, like bulldoze those stories to the ground and start new, right? Have new stories, new ways of believing about yourself, about your life, about what you deserve to have, what you're worthy of, etc. Be sure to check out my upcoming workshop. It's a group coaching experience, and it's happening very soon. So go to jenniferblanchard.net/rewrite-your-life to check out all the details. If you have questions, you can always send me a message on Facebook at The Feel Good Life, or you can go to my website, jenniferblanchard.net. That is it for this week. I will see you guys very soon. And until then, remember, feeling good is the point and the path.